Happy lunch hour, gang. Okay, here's a topic we don't talk about enough, and this is alternate forms of communication, right? Do you have your radios? And we've talked about this many times, whether you have walkie talkies or two ways or CB or GMRS or ham or anything of the sort. You might want to think about it a little bit more if you haven't made that move yet. Okay, if you haven't connected with your family or something in your car. Again, I've shown this numerous times. A portable CB radio, which is what this is. This is one that goes in my truck, and at least where I'm 4, 5, 6 miles away from the house, I've got the base station in the house, and Mrs. P can get a hold of me going, where the hell are you? If the phones are down, right? And you wonder why I say if the phones are down. Well, we have a slight issue that happened this morning. Fortunately, it was caught. But as you probably know, you have a United Nations meeting today going on. All right. Trump was speaking this morning, et cetera, et cetera. Just outside of New York City, about 35 miles out, hidden inside a whole bunch of abandoned apartment buildings, the Secret Service found a massive weaponized SIM farm, okay, to the tune of having 300 SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards so that they could disrupt communications. Now, something that size is organized. This isn't a couple of hackers who decided to play around with this. We don't know yet. It hasn't been reported. We'll probably never know if this was a foreign intelligence agency, China, Iran, Russia, who knows, okay? Or if this was some sort of organization, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Antifa, pick one, okay? But the intention was to disrupt communications by doing this: disabling cell phone towers, denial of service attacks, and securing communications for criminal enterprises. That's what was intended with this stuff. Fortunately, the Secret Service found it. Now, messing with the communication system in the United States is a huge no-no. All right. I mean, as you guys well know, broadcasting on a ham radio without a ham license is a crime. All right. Creating your own cell tower is a crime. Doing all this is criminal. They'll find fingerprints on this somehow, of maybe an idea of what organization did it. Whether or not they can find the individuals, that's a different question. Okay. But they know that somehow, at least what's reporting, is these are known criminals with potential ties to nation state actors. Okay? Now, how it comes out, we don't know. According to CBS, liberal CBS, this is the largest seizure of a communication interruption device ever. Okay? And they were going after New York City. Now think about what happens if you disrupt the communications in New York City, right? Oh, I don't know. The world finance markets are down. That might throw a little bit of fear into people. Gee, I don't know. Any chance of any buildings coming crashing down? And oh boy, nobody can get in touch with people? Maybe communications to the police department, to the fire department don't work, and every second counts. I mean, those of you that remember 9/11, okay, there was no communication there. I think I've told you the story before. I had a a client's daughter that worked in New York City during 9/11, and I took a chance to call her. And somehow, some way, again, this is another area where I believe in divine intervention. My call got through, and she answered the phone. She's, "Who's this?" And I said who it was. "How in the hell did you get through?" I said, "I have no idea. I took a chance and it worked." I was living in Indiana. She was in New York City, and my client was in Chicago. And I was able to say, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yes, I'm okay. I'm going to call your parents right now and tell them that you're okay." And that was it. Don't ask me how it happened. But there was no communication for days after 9/11. Could we be doing something like this as well? Here's my next question. Is New York City the only place they were after? Did they do something like this in Chicago and Dallas and Los Angeles and Atlanta and Washington, D.C., any other major cities? Think about major airports, where those are. What's going on? Kudos to the Secret Service for finding this one, but what else is out there that we don't know about yet? I'm not trying to put fear in anybody saying, "Oh my God, this is prelude to another terrorist attack." But it's something that we need to pay attention to. That, okay, if they try to take out communications, how are we going to find out what's going on? If all of a sudden we don't know what's happening in New York or Washington, D.C., and no news is getting out whatsoever, imagine the chaos. Then imagine the conspiracy theories that fly all over the place is what happened. Go back to H.G. Wells and War of the Worlds, right? Remember that? We've all heard the story. I don't think most of us were alive to hear the actual radio broadcast. But this was when there wasn't enough good information out there that people started believing this radio broadcast that we were invaded by Martians. I don't think we're going to go that far. Elon Musk hasn't found life on Mars yet. But imagine the stories that can come out. Remember the stories that came out after 9/11. Okay? And there's still plenty of people who question exactly what happened on 9/11. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. But imagine the fear that goes through when you can't get information, how your mind starts making things up. If you can get information, if you've got access to CBs or ham radio or anything to listen to, talk to people that you trust to find out what's going on, you're in much better shape. But you start looking at this and you go, okay, what are they going to take out first? Our enemies, I mean. We all talk about the grid all the time. But what if it's the communications? Communications is just as important, because all of a sudden, if New York can't call up Washington, D.C. and say, we're under attack, what happens? If Indianapolis can't tell Chicago, or Denver can't tell Cheyenne, or LA can't tell San Francisco, or Dallas can't tell Oklahoma City, or pick one, okay? That's just more and more time for bad things to happen. Pay attention to this stuff. Get yourself some sort of communication device. Learn how to use it. Okay? Like I said, ham radio, you got to get licensed. Okay, fine. But CBs or something like that, you can listen. You don't necessarily have to broadcast. But hey, truckers might know what's going on. They got a lot of good information all the time. And they talk to each other. And if all of a sudden there's a guy in New York that puts something over to CB to a guy in Jersey, that puts it over to the CB to somebody in Pennsylvania, that puts it over to CD to somebody in Virginia, that puts it over the CB to somebody in North Carolina that heard, all of a sudden that information's, at least something is getting out that you know what's going on. Communication is key. Stuff like this is dangerous. Pay attention.